Inclusion project. It's an international project that we carry out since January 2021 in a partnership with 4 organizations that are the Center for Capacity Building and Empowerment from Sweden, System and Generation Association from Ankara, Inspira Association from Portugal, and Entre Juegos from Spain. In these 6 months, we have carried out many activities, both in person and online. So what are the aims of this project for those of you that might be the first time joining? So for our in-person activities, we aim at promote the participation in sport events through the organization of activities and sport sessions. Promote the fair play principles. So the fair play principles are basically the respect of the opponent, the respect of the rules, playing fairly, respect of the referee decisions, playing through sport, team spirit, and playing with joy. So we always remind to our youth, to play with joy. In the end, sport, it has to be taken as a nice opportunity to socialize and to be together with joyfulness. And also to foster social inclusion. That's why Fair Play for Inclusion from the name of the project. So we are involving also youth who are a bit more marginalized, who are more at risk of social exclusions. So we involve them in our activities to give them the chance to socialize with their peers. And also, beside the in-person activities that we have been organizing in the local territory of the 4 organizations, we've also been organizing several webinars online to also educate on the prevention of the bad habits. So we have been speaking quite a lot on the prevention of bad habits as the abuse of alcohol, smoking cigarettes, use of drugs, eating junk food, social media addictions, and so on, and to promote the well-being of our youth. So we have had many guests, trainers, professional athletes, nutritionists, dietitians. So they really gave us a very good advice on how to promote our well-being. The thing that we were thinking is that so far we have focused a lot in our sessions, in our online session, we focus a lot on the body, let's say. So we really took good care of the body. Even in our last session, we had many advice from our so-called is an international trainer. He collaborates with the Real Madrid Football Club and gave us very good advice how to prevent injuries and so on. But we missed a bit, we neglected a bit to speak about our mind, that it's essential, of course, for our well-being. And that's why we requested the assistance of Lama Michel, that we thanks once again for accepting our invitation. And we will ask Lama Michel if he can help us to understand, first of all, what is a healthy mind, because it might be not so obvious to understand. Maybe we have a big picture, but it's not so obvious what is an healthy mind, how to possibly keep a healthy mind, and also to see which are the benefits of the meditation. Because also, speaking of meditation, yes, we might know it's a practice to train on the attention, on the awareness, but I think it's not much spread, let's say, in our society. So we may go a bit deeper in trying to understand how to possibly benefit from the meditation techniques. The session will be divided in 2 main parts. So the first part, we will leave the floor to the Lama for his teaching. And then in the second part, for approximately 30 minutes, we might ask some questions. So if you would like to write in the chat, so then we might ask if you have any doubts, any questions related to today's topic, or a bit more in general on Buddhism, because I guess not all of us are very much familiar with Buddhism, so we may ask. So we leave the floor to Lama Michel. once again, thank you very much for being here and accepting our invitation.
Jacopo, thank you for the opportunity of being here together with everyone. And for me, it's a pleasure to be here with you, with all of you. My objective today is not to teach anything, but is mostly to share with you some of my own experience, that all of us as human beings, we are much more similar than often we think. So I think that the positive experiences that can help one of us can also help others. So what we are going to do today is not a lesson about Buddhism. I myself, my backgrounds are not Buddhist. I am Brazilian. I was born in 1981 in São Paulo. From the part of my father, it's a Jewish family. From the part of my mother, is a Christian family. So I was already in a sort of mixed religious context when I was very small. Then, when I was around 5 years old, my main Buddhist master, called Lama Ganchen Rinpoche, he came to Brazil for the first time. And when I met him, even though it may seem strange in a way, I was very small, but when I saw him for the first time, I fell completely in love with him. And I simply couldn't stay away from him. And making a long story short, as Jacopo asked me to explain a little bit about myself, I got very, very strongly connected to his person, to the example that he was of a stable, joyful, peaceful, and wise person. And I come from a wealthy family where nothing never lacked for me since I was a kid. But when I was looking around myself, I was asking, why am I studying what I study? As I was going to school in Brazil, I was only 11. And then the only answer that I found at the time was, okay, I study everything that I study, mathematics, English, Portuguese, as we are speaking in Brazil, geography, and all the subjects that we know. And I study all of that so that I can get to a good university. And if everything goes well, I get a job that I like and I am well paid. And this is the answer that I found at that time. Nowadays, I would have a slightly different answer anyhow. And when I looked around in my family, I saw my uncles and friends of the family and so on. I saw many people that they had been to the best universities. They had very good jobs. They were wealthy. And from this perspective, everything was very well. But whenever they gathered together in family meetings, most of the times when they talked between them, there was a lot of complaint going on. And they didn't look so much happy and well. And whenever I saw my master, Lama Ganchen, I always saw him joyful and peaceful. So I said to myself, I want to be like him. That's my role model. So basically, based on that, when I was 12, I decided to follow the same process of education that he did. And I went to live in a monastic university in the south of India. It's a very big religious institution for the study of Buddhist philosophy and meditation. And I stayed there for 12 years. It's more or less around 4,000 students. And I was there for around 12 years. And after that 12 years, I came to live in Italy, where my master was staying. And then I finished my studies, still going another 10 years to Tibet, around 3 months every year. And I started to teach here. My role as so-called Lama is that to practice, to learn Buddhist teachings and practice, and to share with those that are interested with it. Mainly this is in Buddhism, we don't have the concept of converting anyone into Buddhism. So basically, it's mainly an aspect of sharing to anyone who is interested. And I have also the role of helping and guiding people that want to follow this path together. At the same time here, we are in a beautiful place in Italy, near to Switzerland, in the so-called Lake Maggiore. And we have a nice center, and I am taking care of the center. I'm also responsible for all the administrative issues, and not only the spiritual part, but also the mundane part, let's say like this. So this is me trying to make a long story short, okay? And the main point for today is that I would like to share with you, as I said before, some of my own experience, some of the things which I think can help each one of us to be a little bit better with ourselves and others. So, as Jacopo said in the introduction, it's very important to take care of our physical health, but mental health is also very, very important. No, it's just enough for us to see that in the modern world in which we are living now, we have found many different solutions for our physical issues. So we have all sorts of medicine, painkillers. If it's hot, we have air conditioning. If it's cold, we have central heating. And many of us don't have so much physical issues in our life. Some of us does, many of us not. Very sadly, a great part of the world's population are not so fortunate. There's a lot of people in this world which still have many issues with hunger and so on. But still, there are many of us that have a situation in which, in this modern world, let's say the basic needs are easily covered. So physically, we are quite okay. Still, when we look around, there is a lot of suffering. There is a lot of anxiety. There is a lot of fear, sadness, all sorts of mental suffering, emotional, mental suffering going on. And if we ask to most people around, what suffering do you have mostly? Physical suffering or mental suffering? What answer would you expect? Mostly is mental. Suffering means the states of mind, the sensation in which we want it to finish as soon as possible, and we don't want that experience to come back again. We want that experience in the present moment to end as soon as possible. And nowadays, there are many physical aspects that people are quite unwell with. But let's start first with one image that for me has been very beneficial. It's an image of an object that is in balance. Okay. So when we think about this, we see that we have two extremities, one side, another side, and then we have a center. At one side, we have basically our environment, which is the place where we live, the people that we relate to, the job that we do, everything that our financial, material situation, all the context in which we are is part of our environment on one side. On the other side, we have our body. Okay. And for our own balance in our life, it's very important to be in a healthy environment. And it's also very important to have a healthy body. But what happens is that when the center that holds these two, it's not stable, which is our mind, it gets out of balance very easily. When it's very stable, when it's very balanced, even though there are some difficulties on the environment and the body, it's always able to move and brings back the balance. As we can see, if we have a not so easy environment with our body not being really healthy, but if our mind is very stable, somehow we are okay. Instead, when we have situations in which the environment is wonderful, our body is very healthy, but our mind is unhealthy, it's like being in hell while we are in paradise. We can experience a lot of suffering, even though everything is okay, but still we are not well. Okay. So I truly believe that from all the resources that we have in our life, the most powerful resource that we have is our own mind. When we think about work, study, work, sports, relationship, family, enjoying oneself. Then we have also spiritual part. Everything, it's based on how we act from within. So it's based on our mind mainly. Even if we look in sports, sure, to have a healthy, strong body, it's important in many aspects. But very often, one of the most important things is the mental attitude, is the capacity to trust oneself, is the capacity to be in front of difficult situations and not get stuck, but to look for the solutions. So there is, first of all, one very important thing for us to understand, that if I want to have a certain healthy body, wish fulfilling is not enough. The first thing that I need is to wish for it. That's right. The first thing that I need is to say, I want to have a healthy body. But then I need to eat correctly. I need to exercise in the right way. I need to sleep in the right way. I need to take whatever medicine or vitamins I need to take. I need to take care of my body. I need to do what is necessary. And our body doesn't change from one instant to the other. It's like training a muscle. We need to repeat the same thing again and again, again and again, and slowly, slowly it gets familiarized with what we are doing. Our mind works just in the same way. The more we act in a certain way, the more we think in a certain way, the more we react with certain emotions, the stronger these emotions become, the stronger these mental habits become, the more difficult it becomes to change. So our mind is not something solid and unflexible. Our mind is actually very flexible. But it has memory of its previous position, let's say like this, of its own habits. We are made much more of habits than of conceptual understanding. When we are in front of a situation, our tendency is much more that of reacting based on our own habits than the fact of acting with awareness based on our knowledge. So one of the important things is that we need to create positive habits in our mind to help us to deal with the many situations that we have around us. Now, all of us, we have something in common. There is something that is the same. It doesn't matter where we come from. It doesn't matter what is our religion or what is our culture. It doesn't matter what is our social status or anything else. It's the fact that everyone wants to be happy and nobody wants to suffer. That's the same for everyone. And all of us, we are doing the best that we can, trying to be happy and to avoid our own suffering in the best of our own abilities, each one using the knowledge and the experience and the resources that we have, right? Now, this strong desire to be happy and this strong wish not to suffer is one of the strongest forces that we all have in our lives. And one of the focus points is, what do I see as happiness? What do I see as the causes of my own suffering? Because depending on where I project my happiness or where I project my suffering, this will determine very much where I put my energy in my own life. Okay? So now, I like to picture a little bit one idea. It's not a detailed idea, it's a little bit rough, but each one of us can slowly make it, shape it better, of what we understand as a healthy mind. Because even though I am not a doctor, I don't know if anyone of you is a doctor, but when we think about a healthy body, even though we may not understand exactly how all the different organs relate within them and all the inner processes of the chemical parts of our body and everything, we have some idea of what we wish as a healthy body. So we need to have the same idea when we say, I want to have a healthy mind. So first of all, let's see a little bit my own understanding of what I see as a healthy mind. Okay. So first of all, a healthy mind, it's a mind that it's able to adapt to the different situations without getting stuck to it. Because there is a very simple aspect in life, which is we have no control over the external conditions in which we live. We have no control on what the next person is going to do or what the next person is not going to do. We have no control of what happens in our country or what doesn't happen in our country. Sure, we interact with the people and we influence them. Sure, we are part of society and our choices influence society. I have no doubt of that. But still, we have no full control of any of that. So in life, my own metaphor is like if we are sailing. And when we sail, we need to take very much into consideration the currents of the ocean and the direction of the wind, the strength and the direction of the wind. Imagine that we start sailing and we want to go in a direction, but we don't take into consideration the currents or the wind. It becomes very hard to sail. Instead, when we see a certain current or when we see a certain wind, if we adapt to it and we use it to go to our own direction, even though it may seem that we are taking an opposite direction momentarily. Okay. Similar to that, on a healthy mind, whenever there is a situation, the person is not getting stuck into the situation because it doesn't correspond with what was expected. Because all of us, whenever we think about the future, and about the future, it doesn't mean tomorrow or in 10 years' time. Future means what is going to happen when we finish this meeting today. Well, each one of us have something in our mind that we are going to do, or we have an idea of what is going to happen. And whenever we think about what's coming next, we have our own image of the future. And very often, when our own image of the future becomes present, it doesn't correspond with what we expected. So when I am in front of a situation in which there is something that doesn't correspond with what I expected that it should be, or when I am in front of a person that reacts in a way that doesn't correspond with the way how I think the person should act or react, and so on. First of all, on a healthy mind, we shouldn't get stuck. We should be able to look at the situation and ask ourselves, how can I adapt to the situation? And we should not get stuck on the problem, but mainly look towards the solution. No, in a healthy mind, we're always looking towards the solution, never getting stuck in the problem. Because whenever we are in a difficult situation, there is three possibilities. Or we get stuck into it and nothing else exists. We get blocked into our problem, we get blocked into our issue, and we are not able to see anything else in our lives for some time. Or we continue our lives as if nothing is happening. Or we look for a solution, we acknowledge the difficulty, and we put our energy into a solution. We put our energy into wherever we can bring a positive result, where we can do something about it. So a healthy mind is not reactive. A healthy mind is positively active. It's not reacting constantly upon what happens, but is acknowledging what is happening and directing oneself with awareness. That's a very important thing. On a healthy mind, the force that influences a healthy mind is not so much the past, but it's mainly the future. Very often what happens is that when we are in a state that we get emotionally unbalanced, like let's say we experience anger, it happens to everyone. When we are angry and we would ask, oh, why am I angry? It's always because someone did something or something happened in a way that we think should not have happened, and so on. And very, very often, the way how we act in the present, the choices that we make, our emotional states, and so on, they are mostly a reaction of what have happened before in the past. It can be what have happened just now, or even before. Oh, I have this difficulty, I am sad, or I am jealous because this happened, that happened, and so on. Okay? On a healthy mind, in the present moment, we acknowledge the past, but we act following what we want to be in the future. Because the present is the result of the past, but is also the cause of the future. So the main question is not what have happened yesterday. The main question is, what do I want for tomorrow? When we are in a relationship with another person, which can be our mother, our father, our brothers, our friends, a couple relation, it doesn't matter. My question is not so much what the other have done, but how I relate to the other person is based on what type of relationship I want to build up with the person in my future. If I want to have a relationship based on trust, on friendship, on love, then I should act with trust, with friendship, and with love. Because in the present moment, I am building my future. So again, a healthy mind is not reactive. A healthy mind is positively active. And the force that guides a healthy mind is not the past, but is mainly the future. So we learn from the past, we acknowledge the past, we do not negate what have happened on the past, we acknowledge, we embrace our own past, what happens, but then we direct ourselves towards the future that we want. So one of the fundamental aspects is, what do we desire? What do we want? And here I like to invite you to make one reflection. When we ask ourselves, what do we want? There are different levels. There is, what do I want to have? What do I want to do? But then there is also, what do I want to be? And I'm not talking about being a doctor, or being a father, or being a mother, or being a husband or a wife, or being a scientist, or being an astronaut, to say. I'm talking about, who do I want to be from within? On a healthy mind, we must have one image of ourselves, of a better version of ourselves that we want to become. I want to be someone that is in harmony with myself and others, independently of where I am, with whom I am, in what situation I find myself. That's the top level of healthy mind. Is when we are in harmony with ourselves and others, without losing our patience, without acting with aggression and nervousness, without being miser, with acting with generosity, being in peace with oneself and others, independently of the situation that we find ourselves. Okay. A healthy mind is really stable. It's like, for me, one of the images, imagine a big tree with deep roots. When comes a very strong wind, the tree moves because it feels the wind, but it doesn't go out of its own place. And it always comes back to the central position. A healthy mind feels what is happening, but doesn't let it be driven away. So Very often we are not like a tree without strong roots. We are more like a leaf in the wind. Wherever the wind blows, we follow. So we are very happy, then someone says something we don't like, or we become sad. Then we are sad, something nice happens, oh, how wonderful, we become happy. It's like this ups and downs constantly. On a healthy mind, it's not so much up and down. The curve starts to become less. It's more and more stable until there is a sort of emotional stability where there is joy, there is what I like, there is what I don't like, but I don't go into this very high sort of joy, then suddenly go down with deep suffering. A healthy mind is more stable. Okay? So, one important aspect is we do not react, but we act with awareness. But again, to act with awareness, we must have a direction to follow. And in this direction is, what do I want to be? Because we have a direction of what job do I want to do? Do I want to get married or not? Do I want to have kids or not? These are all questions that society brings to us. And somehow we need to answer. And very often we mix up what I want with what my family wants, with what my society wants. Sometimes what society wants from me doesn't correspond with what I want from myself. Sometimes what my parents want from me doesn't correspond what society wants from me or what I want. And there can be difficulties in between. But my point here is not about what job we will do, about if we are getting married or not, or with whom, or if we're having kids or not, and many other choices of life. I'm not talking about what we accumulate in our life. I'm talking about who we are from within. Who we are as a human being from within, how we relate to the world around us. So, for example, for me, some of the fundamental aspects of what I want to be is I want to be patient. To be patient means whatever happens, I will not react with anger. I will not react with aggression. I will act with awareness. Sometimes it may need a little bit of strength in that action, but I will not ever act with aggression. I don't want ever to wish the suffering for anyone. This is one of my own personal commitments. And it's something important for me on a healthy state of mind, never wishing the suffering of anyone else. Because one of the important aspects is I want to be in harmony with everyone. First of all, in harmony with myself, then in harmony with others. And one of the very important aspects of a healthy mind is a healthy mind is not afraid to love. We are not afraid to look at someone else's eyes, to see that we may be from a different culture, we may be from a different society, from a different religion, but I love you. I love you not intended as I want something from you. I love you means your happiness is important for me, as mine. Is the ability to look to others and care for their happiness. And this is something that, when we see that we are very similar to each other, it becomes easier for us to have this sort of feelings for each other. And there is so much more similar aspects than different aspects that we have between all of us. I myself have been living in different countries. I have been with people with all sorts of cultures in different places. And finally, whenever I allow myself to go a little bit beyond the barrier of how we dress or how we act or different things of our culture, I always found out that we are much, much, much more similar than different. So when I think about what I want to be always in harmony with everyone. I want to be able to love others without any blockage. I want to be able to have the strength to do what is right and to abandon what is wrong. This means loving myself. I want to have the strength that when I see that something is of benefit to me, I will do it, even though it's difficult. When I see that something is harmful to me and to others, I will avoid it, even though it's difficult. Have the strength of commitment. This is also part of what personally I wish. I wish to be generous. I wish to relate to the world around me in a way that is consistent. For example, as we talk, okay, I would try to bring a concept that it's not very simple, but I would try to put it in very simple words, okay? But it's fundamental when we talk about a healthy mind. As I am talking and you are listening, what arrives to your ears? Words or sounds? Nga pyoki kitone keja tibaina, nga keja dinso labyendu, kiranso ki amjola karedraj kudo, tsikdraj kudo, tendraj kudo. I just made the same question in Tibetan. When I made a question in English, it seems that what arrives to our ears is words, are words. When I made the same question in Tibetan, unless you speak Tibetan, most probably it seems like just sounds. Okay? If you speak a language that I don't know, for me it will look just like sounds. But in reality, when we really look at it with giving little bit space to analysis, when we look at it, we see that whenever we listen to anyone, what arrives to our ears are just sounds. And we give meaning to that sound. We attribute meaning to that sound. And a language is just a convention of concepts and sounds. So this means this, that means that, and we put it together and we communicate between us. But the truth is that we never know what the other person is saying. We can only know what we understand. So for example, in my life, I took away some phrases and some words out of my own life, which I'd never use anymore. I don't say them. First thing, I never say, you have said. I always say, this is what I understood. What you have said, I don't know. But this is what I understood. And sometimes this is what I remember that I understood, because some time have passed. And sometimes we mixed up what we listened with what we thought that we listened, with what other people told us. We mix things together also. So, for example, in the moment that I stop saying to people, you said this, I already avoid a lot of conflict and a lot of problem. And whenever there is a discussion with someone, always saying, oh, I remember to have understood this. I understood this. Can you make clear what you meant? This already helps a lot. So when we communicate to each other, what arrive to us are just sounds. We give meaning to the sound. Many times it have happened to the life, I imagine, of every one of us, that we say something, the other person understands something else. Or people think that we understood something and we understood something else. It's common. When we see something, what appears to our eyes? Just colors and shapes. And what we do to that colors and shapes? We give meaning to it. This is this, that is that. So basically how we function, how our mind functions, is that when we are a kid, when we are very small, as we grow up, we see things, we listen, and we learn a lot from our family and from society where we are. And slowly, slowly, we start to generate what I call mental images and concepts. We start to build up concepts inside of us. The name of this that I'm looking to is a computer. The name of that is a chair. This is used for this, that is used for that. This is good, that is not good. And we start to mix up concepts together with emotions. And we have what is right and wrong. And all of this that we start to build up since we are a kid. And we have a quite amazing database inside of us of all the experiences and all the concepts that we have built up in our life. Then we see something in front of us. And as soon as we see something, we see the object, or we listen to the sound, or we smell, or we taste, or we touch, or we remember. And whenever we see the object, we make a sort of very quick research inside of us. What is that? And we see which one of my previous experiences or concepts that I have developed fit into the present experience. So when we find something that fits, we say, this is a computer, as I'm looking to a computer now. Or we say, this is this or that. And what happens is that what we are doing is we are applying to the reality around us our own experiences and our own concepts. But most of the times we are not aware of that. We are not aware that what arrives to our eyes is just colors and shapes. We are not aware that what arrives to our ears are just sounds, to which we attribute meaning. We relate to reality as if what I see is what exists. For example, we are looking to each other. Okay? I can see not every one of you, I believe, that is present, but I can see some of you in my screen. I put the gallery view so I can see you as I speak. And when I see you, what appears to me spontaneously is that I am seeing you, right? As you look at me, even though we are looking through a camera and in the screen and so on, let's even say that we were physically in presence of each other, we think that we are seeing the other person, right? But actually, I am not seeing you. I am seeing my version of you. And you are seeing your version of me. Because if I describe myself, and if you describe myself, we have two different versions. And not only that, each and every one of us, we are completely unable to see, to listen, to perceive anything independently of the filter of ourselves. Anything that we see, that we perceive, that we experience is done through the filter of our education, our experience, our culture, everything that we have learned and done and seen and experienced up to now of what we are. Okay? But what happens is that in an unhealthy way, an unhealthy mind, that's what many of us do, most of us, not to say everyone, we look at reality through our own filters and we believe that that is reality. When is my version of reality? And I expect you to see things in the same way how I see. When you guys are looking at me, I expect you to see me in the same way how I see myself. Which will never happen, not because it's the first time that we are looking at each other, but even my own mother cannot see me as I see myself. No one can do that. And if we take 100 people to describe one same person, each one will give a different explanation and description. No one will give exactly the same. But it's not only persons. If we take a table and each one start to describe the table in the minimum details and the emotions that are connected to it and everything else, it will be different, even though similar. So the point here is that we live in a reality that it is subjective. We live in a reality that is relative, that we are not able to experience anything independently of how we are. But an unhealthy mind pretends that the world corresponds to one's own perception. A healthy mind adapts to the reality around, understanding that we constantly project in the world our own experiences, our own concepts, our own ideas, and things do not necessarily correspond to what we project. So when I see you, in wanting or not wanting, wishing or not, I am influenced by my background. And it's very important for me and for each one of us to be open to change, to be open to understand that what I am seeing is my own version of reality, and I can update it. It doesn't need to get stuck into that. And when another person comes and says something that doesn't correspond to my view, okay, I listen and say, that's your view, and your view has so much value as my own. And when we meet someone that has a different point of view than ours, that's very precious. Because when we have someone that sees reality in a different way, or it will help us change our mind, if the other way of seeing seems better or more coherent, or it will help us to have our own view even stronger. For example, I really enjoy very much when I find myself with people from different religions or spiritual traditions or cultures that are open to debate. And we like to talk about something. You know, very often I see an aspect of my own tradition which I didn't see before. And my mind is opened in a different way. So a healthy mind is open. A healthy mind is not stuck. It's able to listen. It's able to see the other and listen to other. Okay. So one of the important aspects, going back, of a healthy mind, it's a mind that is in harmony with oneself and others, and is a mind that understands, not only conceptually, but can feel that reality is subjective. And I have my own version, you have your own version, and that's fine. This doesn't mean that doesn't exist wrong understandings. You know, if I take an object, let's say that I take anything. I can take this object here, one phone, okay? This is my phone, right? How many functions can this object fulfill? So many. For example, let's say, can it work to put under the table if the table is not stable? To get the table stable? It could. Can it work as a coaster to put the glass, not to mark the table when I need to put the glass? It works. Can I use to send emails or to talk to someone as long as the battery is working and everything else is working? I can. So what happened is that there are so many different functions that this object can do. I can give so many different names to it and it works. But can I call it a chocolate bar? No. Even though I believe very strongly that it is a chocolate bar and I truly believe in it, it's not a chocolate bar. Because I can try to bite it as much as I want, it cannot fulfill the functions and the characteristics of a chocolate bar. So whenever we find ourselves with another person having a different opinion about something, a different point of view, before understanding who is right or who is wrong, the first question is, okay, explain to me what are the functions and the characteristics that you attribute to this object, to this situation. Can the object fulfill the functions and characteristics that you attribute? Yes. For example, can this object be used to place the glass on the table? Yes. So it's a correct perception. It cannot fulfill, then it's a wrong perception. And most probably, very often we will see that what I think and what you think is different, but they're both right. because the situation, the object, can fulfill the functions of both. But for example, there is something that is a bit delicate sometimes when we talk about what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is negative inside a relative world. My own understanding is that what is positive are the actions, the things that by through their interaction generate well-being and happiness or eliminates suffering. Anything that through interaction on a short or on at least on a middle or long term generates suffering, then this is something that is negative. If there are things that in the short term is difficult, in a middle long term brings benefit. Oh, if I need to do physiotherapy for my knee, short term is painful, mid long term is beneficial. So that's something good. But if I act with violence against someone and I hurt that person and so on, it is bringing suffering to the other person. And to myself, it's cultivating within myself aversion, anger, and so on that generates more suffering to myself also. So even though I may say, oh, that's something good, it cannot be good because on a middle, long term, it doesn't bring happiness. It's like saying that the phone is a chocolate. Okay. So here we can have a long process of discussing and so on, what is good, what is not good, and so on. But the point that I want to bring is that it's not because we live in a relative world that everything can exist, is we just need to think about it. It's not exactly like that. So on a healthy mind, we have the ability to have this sort of humbleness, to understand that this is my perception. It doesn't need necessarily to be right. And I am open to listen to yours and to learn from yours. Okay. So going back to the main points, we have relating to the world in a way that is coherent. For example, another very important point, which I will just touch slightly, is to see impermanence. For example, if we just question anyone, the world in which you live, the reality that surrounds you, the people, the situations, your own body, your own mind, is it permanent, static, or is impermanent, constantly in transformation? Naturally, we will say it's constantly in transformation. It's impermanent. But yet, when we see and we perceive the world around us, we have difficulty seeing and perceiving this constant change. And we have difficulty dealing with change very often. So a healthy mind deals with reality as being impermanent, understands that everything is constantly in transformation, and sees the power of every action, of every choice, of every thought. Because every action we do, every choice we make, even every thought we have, will determine our future. It's not that there is some things that are important and things that are not important. Everything that we do sums up with the rest and determines how we live and what we experience. So in a healthy state of mind, it gives value to every moment of life. And another point, which it's a little delicate in a way, but I'm not going to go deep into it now because we don't have the time for it, is a healthy mind. It's aware of its own mortality. Because let's say the truth, we are going to die. And dying is not a problem because it has no solution. what doesn't have a solution is not a problem, it's a fact. The problem is not to live well. The problem is to have a life of conflict and suffering and violence. So to live well, it's a choice. It's something that we can live well. But to see our own mortality, to understand the certainty of our own death, it brings us the value of every day of our life. Is to see that the present moment that we are living right now will not repeat itself. So we need to give the best of ourselves every moment, every day. We shouldn't show our love to others. We should not cultivate inside our mind sadness and hatred and bad feelings. We are going to die sooner or later, and we have no time to lose with jealousy, with envy, with insatisfaction, or who knows what. Life goes by every day, and we become what we think and what we do. So I don't want to cultivate myself. I don't want to become a sad, jealous, envy, nervous, and person with anxiety and so on. So on my daily life, when I see these things coming, I'm not following it. So I would like, I don't know, Jacopo, exactly how much time we have.
We may have 20, 25 minutes more, but actually is on you. Really, we are.
Okay. I am on time. I have no any other appointments for today. So I have here with time, okay? So I would like just to bring another 2 points and then open for questions, okay? So first point is that, as we saw, a healthy mind, it doesn't have a very precise listing. A healthy mind is a mind that deals well with situations, doesn't get stuck, looks towards solution, and is in harmony with oneself, is in harmony with others and with situations. Okay? A healthy mind is humble, it's not arrogant. A healthy mind is loving, is not anger. It's generous, is not miser. Has trust and not fear. Has joy and not sadness. But as we can see, a truly healthy mind is a goal to reach. It's not something obvious. Okay? So, how to develop a healthy mind? More and more. Here we have 2 parts of it. One part is the unhealthy habits that I have that I like to change. And for habits, I mean anger, jealousy, envy, insatisfaction, fear, sadness. These are all habits that we generate in our own mind. Okay? And each one of us have our own. Some people get more angry, other people are more jealous, other people have a lot of fear. Each one of us have our own situation. So one side is, what are the mental habits, these mental structures that we want to change. We also call them negative emotions that we want to change. And on the other side, we have, what are the qualities that I want to develop, such as patience, stability, joy, satisfaction, generosity, concentration, awareness. Okay, these are some of the qualities that we can develop. So the first step is, I invite each one of you to observe a little bit of your own self and write down 2 lists. On one side, you write, what are the emotions or the mental habits that harm you? They harm you because when they manifest, you don't feel well. It's not pleasurable. It gives us an uncomfortable feeling. For example, if we get angry, is it pleasurable or unpleasurable? It's unpleasurable. To hold, on the other side, if something difficult happens, to hold it inside of us and not do anything, it's also unpleasurable. So we can put both on the list. Okay, holding up and acting as if nothing happened towards a difficult situation. That's something which is not good for me. Reacting with aggression and anger, that's also not good for me. Being jealous, that's not very nice. Feeling envy, that's not a pleasurable feeling. But we look towards our own selves. I don't want to come up with the rules and to say what you need to cultivate and what you need to prevent. We need to look upon our own selves and we need to make this choice. And we can go back to that list again and again from time to time, and we will make some fine tuning into it. Okay. The first step is we make these two lists. What I want to cultivate and what I don't want to cultivate, what I want to eliminate. Not regarding external aspects of our life, regarding our own mental, emotional habits. Sometimes we can add also the manifestations such as, for example, the habit of criticizing others. It starts in the mind and ends in the mouth or in the text. So, for example, in Buddhism, we have one vow, one commitment that we can take, not everyone takes, but we can take, which is do not criticize others, which I think is very useful. But anyhow, that's one example of something that we can do, because it starts in the mind, but then it manifests in our speech. But we make a list of our habits. If we want to be even more in details, there are people that like making lists. You can go into what is good and not good for me of physical, verbal, and mental actions. What I do physically that is good, what I do physically that is not good. What I do verbally that is good, what I do verbally that is not good, what I do mentally that is good, and mentally that is not good. But let's start today at least with our mind. So you think about what are the emotions, what are the mental habits, the inner dialogues that makes you feel suffer, makes you feel unwell. You put on one side of the list, you can choose right or left, doesn't matter. And then on the other side, you put all the inner states that when you have, you feel well. Maybe there are some states of mind that you even don't know what name to give to it. Then you just write a short description. Okay. Second step is to develop awareness. Let's start with the part that we want to avoid. So we have 3 steps to go to avoid some negative emotions and to be able to eliminate them. Let's take the example of the most common one that often we talk about, which is anger. First step is awareness. To be aware when I am getting angry. It's somehow the ability to see one's own self. There's self-awareness. We can see our mind. So we see that we are getting angry. We know that it's not really good. We know that we don't want to get angry, but we still cannot control ourselves. That's the first step. It's a good step. Hey, I know many people that came to me and saying, oh, Lama, I am so bad because now before I was getting angry, but I was not aware of it. Now life is worse. Not only I get angry, but I am aware that I'm getting angry. Then I feel angry on myself that I got angry because I shouldn't get angry and I couldn't stop myself getting angry. You don't need to get angry on yourself. You need to rejoice, be happy that you could see it coming, even though you couldn't block it. Because that's the first step, developing awareness. I have a bad habit. I see the habit coming, but I don't have enough strength yet not to follow it. That's the first step. I think it's quite clear, right? I see jealousy coming. I see the jealousy manifesting, but I cannot hold it. I see fear. I can see the different emotions or bad habits that we put in our list. We see them coming, but we cannot stop them. Second step, that's the first step, is awareness. Second step is that we see the negative emotions such as anger coming, then we do not block it and we do not follow it. If we try to stop that emotion, it simply will not work. It's very similar, for example, when we try to take away one thought from our mind. I don't know if you have ever tried. I don't want to think about this. Stop thinking about that. The more you do, the stronger the thought becomes. Okay, so it doesn't work in this way. So when a negative emotion such as anger manifests and you try to block it, it won't go away. It's going to get even stronger. So this, on the second step, we do not block that negative emotion. We see it coming and we don't block it. But at the same time, we don't follow it. We are simply aware that it is there and that it will pass. If you look at yourself, did it ever happen that you got angry, then the anger got stuck there forever? No, right? It doesn't matter how angry you got, at one moment that anger faded away. Maybe after it came back, but at one moment it fades away. So on the second step, with awareness, we see the anger coming and we are aware of not only that I have the anger, but that it will pass. Just wait. Do not nourish that negative habit. Do not nourish it. Don't make it stronger. So don't block it, because that's one way of nourishing that emotion, is trying to block it. And don't follow it. Not following a negative habit, there are three ways to follow it. So naturally, there are three ways not to follow it. We follow a negative emotion when, one, we act out of it. So I get angry and I do things out of anger. That's the first way of nourishing anger and following it. The second way is I get angry and I don't keep quiet. I talk out of anger, or I write out of anger. Okay, I communicate myself out of anger. That's the second level. And as we all know, when we get angry, what we say doesn't correspond that much with what we truly think very often. So it's not the right moment to say stuff when we're angry or jealous or many other emotions. So on the second level, when we see our strong negative emotion coming, we do not follow it, but we do not block it and we don't follow it. We don't take decisions out of it. We don't interact with people out of it. We don't act out of it. And we don't speak it. We do not communicate out of that emotion. The third level is that we do not enter into an inner mental dialogue with our negative emotion. For example, I get angry and then I start saying to myself, oh yes, I shouldn't be angry, but have you seen what have happened? If that person did this, how could I not be angry? Look at this, look at that. So I start to justify to myself my own anger. And I start to imagine, oh, maybe I need to do this, maybe that will happen. And I start to enter in a whole dialogue together with my own emotion. We shouldn't do that. So the first step is awareness. The second step is we don't block and we don't follow. We remain there stable. We just look. We make some distance and then we just look. And one of the things that can help a lot is we can have something that we say or something that we look at or an image that we think that is like a safe place where we go with our mind in that moment, not to follow that emotion. We can recite a prayer of any tradition. We can sing a song in our mind. We can think about an image like a sunset or a tree or a place or a person. But we direct our mind into something that is positive, good memory, something that is good. So to make our mind a little bit busy at that moment, helping ourselves not to follow that emotion. And remember, first step is physically not following, then verbally not following, then mentally not following. Okay? So first, awareness. Second, don't block and don't follow. The third step is to give continuity to the second until the emotion fades away. Because what will happen is that in the beginning we have the awareness, but we are not able to stop the emotion. On the second level, we have the awareness. We don't block the emotion and we don't follow the emotion for some time. Then when we lose a little bit of our attention, poof, that emotion comes and there we are talking, we are doing, suddenly we are following the emotion. Okay? We are not able to keep it until it fades away. On the third step, we are able not to block and not to follow. We do not interact with the negative emotion. We do not follow the negative emotion until it fades away. And when the negative emotion comes and then it fades away without being nourished by us, it fades away weaker than it came. When a negative habit comes and we act out of it, it goes away stronger than it came. I feel like criticizing. I don't. At some moment, the wish of criticizing fades away. Then that habits become weaker. I feel like criticizing and I criticize, the habit of criticizing gets stronger. We are made out of habits. The first time is more difficult not to follow. The second is a little bit less difficult. Slowly, slowly, it becomes more easy. As one of important Buddhist master of around 15 centuries ago, called Shantideva, he said in one of his texts, in Tibetan, he says, which means there is nothing that is not easy once you get used to it. So it's a matter of training ourselves constantly, also in our emotions. So on one side, we train ourselves not to block and not to follow our negative emotions. First, train in awareness. Second, train not blocking and following at the same time. Observing from outside, going to a safe place with our mind. The other step, which goes after that, is to generate positive thoughts and positive emotions that are good for us. Okay. For example, I truly think that it's better for me and for anyone to be altruistic, to be caring and loving towards others, rather than being selfish and don't care about others. But the loving, kind, altruistic mind doesn't come all the time, right? But on some way, it's much better to be an artificial, altruistic person than a natural, selfish one. So when it comes to training, there is a part which calls acting in an artificial way, positively, which doesn't mean being fake. It means it doesn't come spontaneously to me to be kind towards you. But I truly believe it's the best thing to do. So I will breathe a few times. I will not act without of reaction. I will remind myself I need to act kindly, why, and so on. Then I will put an effort and I will act with kindness. It's not fake, it's true. It simply didn't come spontaneous. And the more times I do it, the easier it becomes. Until one day I don't need to think about it and it just comes. For example, to have awareness of the present moment. That's something very powerful. One time even there was a man that he came to Buddha and he asked Buddha, "Oh Buddha, what you and your disciples do?" And Buddha answered him saying, what we do, we eat, we sit, and we walk. But then the man said, "Oh Buddha, but everyone eats, sits, and walk. What's the difference?" Buddha said, when we sit, we are sitting, we are seated. When we eat, we are eating. When we walk, we are walking. It's to be present where we are on what we do. It means having our mind in the same place where our body is. It's very beneficial and it's very powerful, but it's not that easy. Try to keep your mind where is your body for 5 minutes. After a few seconds, it's gone. It went to see a friend. It went to think about what you need to do tomorrow. It's thinking about the food. It's remembering a movie that you saw somewhere. It's jumping up and down. But this is not because we live in modern society. It's been like this at least since the time of Buddha, because Buddha was talking about this. Okay, so we have at least 2,500 years that human mind is like that. But we can train ourselves to have a mind that when you say to the mind stays here, the mind stays there. That's a wonderful thing to do. And this is one of the bases of meditation. Meditation is not just to sit and be in silence. The word meditation in Tibetan is gom, which literally means to familiarize. When in our Western world, modern world, when we say to meditate on something, for example, to meditate on love, we think that the meaning is to reflect upon the meaning of love. And very often nowadays, when we think about meditation, we think that to meditate means to stop thinking somehow. The meaning of meditation, let's imagine like driving. One thing is learning how to drive. Another thing is choosing where we go once we know how to drive. So to meditate requires the mind to be present at the present moment. And learning how to meditate, it's part of the process, is learning to bring our attention to the present moment, to bring our mind to the present moment. Once we can do that better, then we can generate inner states of mind, positive states of mind. So for example, we generate love, we generate gratitude, we generate awareness, we generate generosity, we generate any positive state of mind that we want to cultivate, and we stay in that state for a longer period. And by that, we familiarize our mind with that positive mental state. Because in the same way that with negative emotions, if I follow them by acting, by verbalizing, or by thinking, I make them stronger, so we try to avoid it. For the positive mental states, what we need to do? We need to interact with them. So we need to act out of them, we need to speak out of them, we need to think through them. Okay, so how do I familiarize myself with generosity? By being generous, even though it may not come completely spontaneous. I'm going to share my things with others, even though my feeling is I want to keep for myself, but I know it's better to be generous and it's good for me and others. So I am sincere, but I give. Don't worry if inside of you there is some contradiction. We are made of many contradictions. A final, healthy, perfect mind has no contradictions, but that's the final state. In the way going, we have many contradictions. I know, but I don't feel like. Okay? In the process of developing a healthy mind, one of the important things is making harmony between what I think, what I know, what I feel, and what I do. When there is harmony between what I feel and what I know and what I do, then we experience a better state of inner peace and silence. When there is conflict between what I feel or what I want and what I think and what I know, then we enter into an inner dialogue in which the conceptual mind of knowing and thinking tries to convince the emotional part of wanting and feeling, and vice versa. And we can stay for hours and hours and hours trying to convince ourselves in one way or another. And when we act following one of the two, then it even becomes stronger, this conflict, this inner dialogue. So one of the important things is by meditating, we bring our attention to the present moment, and we somehow embrace every aspect of ourselves. So I start to have awareness of what I feel. I start to have awareness of what I know. And I acknowledge these are both parts of me. And I need to make harmony and friendship between them. Sometimes I follow more what I feel. Sometimes I follow better what I know. And I start to see what's the better balance that I can find between it. So in meditation, we start by observing the present moment, for example, observing our own breath. Just bringing our attention to our own breath and nothing else. Then the mind will go somewhere else. We don't block it. We don't scold the mind, oh, what are you doing? No, we just, in a very gentle way, we bring the attention back to our breath. And you do that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour. Once we can do that, then the second step is that actually we start generating a positive emotion. We generate a feeling of love and we stay within the feeling of love. We generate a feeling of compassion or generosity or awareness or any positive emotion that we have in our list. We try to generate that and we remain into that. So how we cultivate our positive emotions? By meditating and by acting, by talking, by thinking. One thing about the meditation is that there are two types of meditation. There is single-pointed meditation, and then there is analytical meditation. The analytical meditation is very useful also, which is, let's say there is a positive thought, a positive emotion that you want to generate, but it's not coming spontaneously in your daily life. So imagine that you have a sort of imaginary friend, an imaginary person, and you need to convince that person that is good to act in that way, is good to feel that emotion, why and what. And the other person is not truly convinced about it. So we really need to convince that person hard. So we enter into an inner dialogue explaining why I need to be kind towards others. I know it's difficult, yes, to say, but it's better because finally it generates harmony and it makes me feel better because remember that moment or another. We try to find a whole way how to explain why until we convince. And when we convince, then we try to generate that feeling. Okay? So entering into the sorts of inner dialogues that directs the mind to develop positive states of mind. That's making it very simple, what we call an analytical meditation. Now, just before we open for questions, just some practical advice about meditation. Meditation is not religious. Meditation is a powerful technique to exercise our mind that can also be used within religious context, but it's not something religious in itself. Okay, it exists in so many traditions, in many contexts. So one very few simple steps that we can do. The first step, which is not meditation, but is preparation for meditation. We just sit down with our back straight. That's the most important thing. The back shouldn't be tense and it shouldn't be curved. We should have our back straight. We can sit on a chair, we can sit cross-legged. It doesn't matter. If you do laying down, you may fall asleep. It's not a good choice, okay? So you are sitting. You can keep your hands on your knees, or you can keep your hands in this position, which is what we call meditation posture, but just be in a comfortable position with the shoulders relaxed, the eyes not completely closed and not widely open, slightly closed, no looking downwards. You keep your mouth relaxed. And then you commit yourself, I am not going to move. You don't need to think about anything particular. Your mind can go anywhere. This is not meditation yet, but you're not going to move. And you will see that in the beginning, it's really hard. You start feeling itchy here and feeling itchy there, and you need to move here and there. And the more you scratch, the more you feel itchy. So you have the commitment, I am not going to move, so I just stay there. Think about anything, doesn't matter, but don't move. There will be a moment in which you will start to feel comfortable in that state. Okay? The first time you do maybe 5 minutes, then the next time you do a little bit longer. You don't need to have a timer, you just have a reference of time and you see how much time you can stay. And there is a moment in which, by sitting and apparently doing nothing, which is to do a lot, not moving, you will see that your body starts to relax and to feel well, and it's not more difficult just to be. When you have some familiarity with that, then we start meditating. We sit down in the same posture, and then we start observing our breath. We follow our breath with our mind. We observe the air going in, the sensation at our own nostrils. And then we observe as the air flows out. If we are more relaxed, we do both through the nostrils. If we are a little bit tense, we can inhale from the nose and out and exhale from the mouth. But this is if we are more anxious. If we are already more calm, we do both from the nose. Okay? And then don't do anything else. Simply allow yourself to be where you are, to feel the present moment, and to observe your own breath. The exercise is that the mind will go to different places. Whenever it goes anywhere else, you very gently bring it back to the breath. And after a few seconds, it's somewhere else again. Then gently, you go to the breath. You try not to name the objects, not to judge the thoughts about what you're thinking, not to follow it. Don't block it, don't blame yourself. Just bring the attention back to your breath. And gradually, you will see that it's less and less hard, and you can do it better. Try it, see how you feel with it. In the beginning, it's truly not easy, but it gets easier and easier, but we need to do with some frequency. It's not like I do once every month. It needs to be done with some frequency, possibly a few minutes every day at least. And you can do anywhere. You can do sitting at home. If you need to travel around and you are in the subway or whatever, you can do, or on a bus, you can do in any place where you are. Nowadays, we are more closed at home, but still, it doesn't matter where you are, just be there. Be with yourself and allow yourself to be there. This will help us for many things, but one of them is to create inner space, to calm the mind. And then we have more awareness and more inner space to deal with the situations, to make choices, to observe our emotions without needing to react out of them. Okay? So it's a very powerful tool. It's free. It has no negative side effects. So we just need to do it. Okay. So my advice is, imagine who you want to be from inside. Make your list, what I want to avoid, what I want to cultivate. From time to time, update the list. And then bring that awareness to your daily life. And try to meditate a bit. These things together will help us to get a healthier mind. I cannot assure you that after 6 months you have a total perfect state. But if you really do, I can assure you that something positive will change. Okay. So I would say that we can open for some questions.
Thank you very much, Lama.
Or comments also. Doesn't need to be a question. If anybody likes to say something or to state, or if there's something that you don't agree, everything is fine.
I may ask something, but I would like to leave to our youth first, maybe. They have.
Okay, I can go. Questions? Can I go, Jacopo?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. It's just listening to you, it's so peaceful and relaxing. Thank you very much again for accepting and delivering all your thoughts, let's say, in this regard. Actually, I have a couple of questions, but I will ask one question now, and then maybe some others want to ask. One of the things that caught my attention was the part when you were mentioning about the being artificially altruistic, and yeah, this part. But even though it doesn't come automatically, let's say, from us, from our inner part, let's say, it's still good to do it. But my concern, or the thing that came into my mind was like, okay, we can still do it, but if we didn't feel like doing it, doesn't that thing make us like be in conflict with our inner feelings and our thoughts? And maybe this can create a frustration that we did something that we really didn't feel like doing it.
Esmeralda, right?
Yes.
Right? The good thing of working through Zoom is that you can see the name of people, so it helps.
Yeah.
So there is a difference between being fake and being artificial. First thing is that when we act in a fake way, which I don't agree that is good to us, we should avoid, is that we show something and we do something that we don't agree, that we don't want. And being fake also brings the part that we act in a way that we don't really feel like. We do it because society demands us to do. We do it because the context around us, people expect us to do. We do it because it's the right thing to do for others somehow. So we act in that way. In this way, we are more fake than artificial. Okay? Or maybe both. Artificial means what I meant when I say to be artificially, for example, it's better to be an altruistic artificial than a natural selfish, is that there are things and behaviors and attitudes that we think that is good for us, but they don't come truly spontaneous. I am in front of a person which I don't really like that much, And I don't feel like listening to that person, to listen to his or her difficulties. But I know that it's good to listen to people. That's what I want to be able to do, to have empathy with everyone. So I breathe in, breathe out. Okay, I will act in accordance to what I want to be, even though now it's not there. And I will try to listen to the person. It's sincere. It's not 100% spontaneous, or maybe 0% spontaneous, but still I put an effort to do it. So I am not going against my wishes or my own personality. I'm going against my habits, and I'm trying to create a positive habit. But to do it, I must, inside of myself, agree with it. I must feel that that's what I want to do. That's very important. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome.
I also want to ask something, but first, I really want to thank you. This conversation was inspiring. Really, thank you so much. And my question is, so I was doing yoga and meditation for many years, but for 1 year, it became more regularly. You know, it was like my lifestyle, actually. Like, finally, my life was like a meditation. I had the awareness, I had the balance, I was so stable, and my emotions were regulated. So finally, I was there. I was at the moment. But 2 weeks ago, something happened, and I don't know what happened, but somehow I couldn't do it anymore. Normally, I was doing my meditations for 40 minutes every day. Then it became 20 minutes. And now it became 10 minutes. And it's even so hard to do it for 10 minutes. Like, you know, I'm doing, but I'm not there. I don't see my emotions. I don't see my thoughts. I'm just sitting and I'm like in an autopilot, just sitting and doing nothing. So I'm like at the beginning, and I feel like I didn't do anything. It's all gone. I feel like I'm lost. So what is your suggestion? You know, what can I do to go there again?
So, Beza, and first of all, our life is made of cycles. There are many moments that we live. And when we experience something, it is influenced by so many different aspects of our life. So there are moments in which, for us, it's more easy to be in a way, and moments in which it's more easy to be in another. It's not always the same. Okay? So what have happened, I believe, is not that you did something wrong or that it doesn't work anymore with you. It's mainly that you are entering into a different moment of your own life. There are different influences in the present moment. Sometimes it's something to do with the people that we relate with. Sometimes it can be related with having a strong fear or a strong desire or a strong aversion. Sometimes it's a different type of influence that we even don't know what it is. But our mind changes, our experiences change. Okay? So remind yourself that you are constantly changing. You're constantly transforming. And what we need to do is to adapt ourselves to the changes that come. So my advice is, don't give up on meditating. But at the same time, don't force yourself to do it exactly as it was. But put your energy into other things also, maybe. Remember that our path is made of 3 parts, what I call the spiritual path. We have the part of the view, which is our own paradigm, our own worldview. And this is, we need to dedicate to study, to learn, to listen, to discuss, to understand. That's a very important part. There is another part, which is the conduct. So how do I act physically, verbally? how do I relate to other people, what I do in my life that is coherent with my view. Inside the view, we have what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, and so on. And then we have a third part, which we call meditation, which is the part in which we have actual meditation. We can have the part of prayers. We can have the part of art and different things that we do that helps us to shape ourselves to be what we want to be. So maybe, for example, in the present moment, if to meditate in this way, it's being difficult, try to keep on meditating, but put your energy into other aspects also. Maybe study more, do something where you interact with other people, but always following on the same path. Always the awareness with your actions, your emotions, cultivate what is positive emotions and so on, but don't force too much yourself. Okay. And the other thing is that have some patience and have some time, give some time to your own self, because sometimes it's a moment. Our body is constantly changing, and we are highly influenced even by our body. What we eat influences us, how we feel. If you try to meditate after eating, for example, in Brazil, we eat a lot of black beans. Okay, we call it, for example, feijoada. It's a traditional Brazilian food. It's very heavy. Try to meditate after having a lunch with that. Your mind will not meditate well. Or try to meditate not eating at all. Your mind will be much more active, and so on. So even there is a possibility that is something that has happened physically to you. There is for both man and woman, all the hormones and the body changes and many things, and it influences our mind and everything else. So don't take it as, oh, now it's like this. It's a moment that you are going through. And when we go through moments, we need not to block them, but to direct them and to adapt to them in the best way as we can. So my advice again is don't stop meditating, but don't force too much. If now you said 10 minutes, okay, you commit yourself to do 5. Then maybe you do 10, 15. Don't commit yourself to do 50 and then after you do 10. Make a small commitment and then you can do even more. Okay? But don't feel like it's not that you have done nothing or what you did is useless. It's that the path is not a constantly line going up. Imagine a line that is moving upwards, but when you go like you zoom in and you look nearby, it's made of ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. That's how our life is. So just focus your energy, see where is the best place where to put your energy, and then this experience with meditation will come back again. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
May I please?
Yes.
So first of all, I would like to thank you for this beautiful session. I really enjoyed every word of it. And as a beginner in meditation, I would really want to ask you a question. What is a mantra, and do I need one every time I meditate?
So, meditation doesn't require necessarily a mantra. Okay. So a mantra is like, what to say? It's not precisely a word. The best word in English that I would find to define a mantra is like a spell almost, or a short prayer. Just to give a very short explanation about the mantra. Mantras most of the times are this set of words put together in Sanskrit. The reason why the mantras are always kept in the Sanskrit language is because in Sanskrit there is a part of, let's so-called the language science, in which in Sanskrit language, every sound is related to one of the 5 elements. So we have fire, water, wind, earth, and space. Okay? And the elements have a particular way of relating to each other. There is a way in which when the elements relate to each other, that it generates growth, There is a way that it generates harmony. There is a way that it generates conflict. There are different ways, mainly 4 ways of interaction between the elements. So in Sanskrit language, every letter of the alphabet, every sound actually, has a particular vibration, and that vibration of the sound is related to a particular element. So if, for example, there is a word that refers to something strong, that refers to avoid or to destruction, the sounds of the word mostly is done by 2 sounds. It will be related to 2 elements that generate, the relation between them generate conflict. So it's to make in a way that when we say a word, it's not only the value that we attribute and the concept that it represents, but energetically, through the vibration of that sound, it generates an energy that is connected to the meaning that we give to it. Okay? So behind mantras, there is a lot of science, a lot of thought. It's centuries and centuries old of the way how the sounds interconnect between each other and with what type of energy they generate, what type of vibration that sounds generate, because we need to remember that sound is vibration, vibration is energy. Okay. Another meaning of the mantra is that one of the translations that is given to the word mantra is mind protection. So we take a small mantra, for example, Om Mani Padme Hum is one of the most well-known mantras. Om Mani Padme Hum. So when we say this mantra, we repeat it a lot and we keep repeating it. And what happens is that we have a small verse, like one mantra, and which connects ourselves to something positive. So Mani means jewel, which refers in this context with the part of love and compassion. And Padme or Peme means lotus, which in this context refers to wisdom. So somehow the mantra means love and wisdom, love and wisdom. And it's connecting us to it every time we recite. By reciting a lot the mantra during a meditation or in the beginning of a meditation or during the day, we are in an unconscious way, we are connecting ourselves to that meaning. And it's protecting our mind from our own thoughts. It protects our mind from our mind going up and down and from all our different inner habits. Okay, so I have seen that there are similar to mantras in many different traditions, religious. There is in Buddhism, there is in Hinduism, and I believe in many other traditions, there are also similar mantras. And it's something that it's really nice to try to start applying it to our daily life, okay? When we do a meditation with mantra, this enters into a type of meditation which is called meditation with recitation, and often it goes together with visualization. That's another subject, which means that when we imagine something with our mind, we generate an inner experience. So for example, one of the very basic meditations with mantras that we can all do with different mantras, it doesn't need necessarily to be a Buddhist mantra, is as we sit and we recite the mantra, we allow ourselves to feel love. We imagine the other people around us, people that we know. Then we start imagining people that we don't know. And then we imagine that from our heart, light goes out and start touching the heart of others and generating peace inside each one of them. And then after these lights come and reabsorb back into our own heart, and other people find themselves in a peaceful state. Okay, this is one meditation that we do with visualization and the recitation of mantra. In the Buddhist tradition, there are so many different mantras that we can use. And if you would be at one point interested in learning mantras and so on, nowadays, luckily with internet and so on, there are so many different possibilities. Sorry, there is my little dog around. So, and this is it. You don't need necessarily a mantra, but you can also use one. These are different types of meditation. Both, all of them are very much helpful. Okay, but I advise everyone, if you learn one mantra, try to recite it. No, normally we use something which we call a mala, which is like one rosary, like we have beads. Every mantra we do one. We can see this in the Islamic tradition, in the Christian tradition, in the Buddhist tradition. In every tradition, there is something similar. And during the day, you just go and you recite the mantra when you are in something in between. And it will help to calm down the mind and to connect with something that is positive for you. Okay? And I repeat once again, it doesn't need to be a Buddhist mantra. It can be of any different tradition. Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, I have a question, but first of all, obrigado. Obrigado. My question is, according I understand, we can unfair, or it's no sense to fear something we can control, but how to stop feeling the fear? Like the fear of the death is like, we cannot control, it's a fact. Everyone are going to pass away. But I think it's one of the fear more popular, or at least even in this moment. What we can do? I don't know if it's a stupid question, but...
No, not at all. So Blanca, first of all, fear, it's common. It's natural, okay? And it's not something that we can block and stop at once. Once someone told me something that is interesting. When we are kids, there is one type of fear, is like being alone in the room and having the fear there is someone inside the wardrobe or there is someone under the bed, okay? So how do you eliminate the fear that there is someone inside the wardrobe? You can make all the logical statements that there is no one there, it won't work. The way how to deal with that fear is go there and open the wardrobe. Okay. There are some fears that we can do that. There are some fears that we cannot, like the fear of death. We cannot go and die in order to deal with the fear of death, okay? Personally, there is one attitude that I have tried to apply in my life that has been useful, is when there is something that I worry about and there is some sort of fear, is when I see that it is actually inevitable, that it's natural, that it's simply there. So there is no point trying to avoid it, but the point is trying to integrate myself into it. So I will start learning about it. I will start being more near to it. So for example, this question brings me to my mom. My mother, in one point of her life, she was very afraid that she got sickness that would mean early death. So she was very young, and she was, I think, around her 28 or something like that. I was already born. And she got this very, very strong fear of dying. So when she got this fear, she said to herself, I need to do something about this fear. So what she started to do is she started to study and to direct herself to work with dying people, to help people to die. So nowadays, she's a psychologist, and her main work is to help people to die peacefully and to deal with death, the people that are dying and the family. So one way of dealing with our fear is actually to deal with it, to confront it peacefully, and somehow not to start to learn more about it, to be more near to it, and we will see that it's not as bad as we thought very often. And somehow we need to allow to move. Because one of the difficulties of fear is when we get stuck. And we don't even want to think about it. We don't even want to listen about it. We don't even want to connect to anything with it. So we need to go beyond that stage of being stuck. Okay? And we need to remind ourselves that we have the freedom of choice. There are moments in which we can choose between doing and not doing, having or not having. And there are things that we have the capacity to change how we do. For example, we don't have the choice to die or not to die. But we do have the choice of how to die. And by this, I don't mean with technically what sickness or what happens when I die. I mean internally how I am when I die. We do have this choice. Okay? It's not something obvious. It's a whole day of talk if we start opening that subject. It's one of my favorite ones, but I think that we need to deal with our fears. And first step, try to stop being afraid of the fear itself, because very often what happens is that we are more afraid of the state of fear than the object of the fear. So sometimes we just need to remind ourselves, this is just a memory of something that I experienced. It's not what I have in the present moment. Fear is very much connected with memory, with what we experienced before. So one of the ways of dealing with fear is allowing ourselves one step after the other of having good experiences regarding that subject. Then slowly, slowly, we go beyond it. Okay? And the other advice is start to deal with the small fears. Don't go right away to deal with the biggest fears. We need to start with the small ones. This will help us to have less fear of the fear. Slowly, slowly, we can go more and more with other types of fears. Okay? Someone entered. Oh, I think it's. Can you listen to me?
Yes, we can listen really well, but a bit because there is background noise.
Yes, I think someone unlocked the screen. Is someone called Renato, looks like.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay.
Just host can do it. We cannot do it.
Yes.
And I wrote, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
That's okay. Perfect.
Okay, nice.
Okay. Yes. Patricia, please.
Okay. So if I may share first of all with you one observation, and later on I would like to ask you one thing.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for the session. It was really, really interesting. And I really would like to share with you one thing. I'm a nutritionist, and sometimes when I am in the consult with my patients, I usually speak to them about the benefits of the mindfulness. That is a very trendy practice nowadays. I think is from the Buddhism. I'm not completely sure, but is mostly the things that you were speaking before. And I always try to recommend them to feel the food before they eat.
Mm-hmm.
Just because some of them have problems with the eat biting, so they eat super fast and with they are not enjoying the food, and later this can be yes, the base for further problems to appear. So yes, this is one thing that I already implemented in my session, and I really like to listen to you speak about it. And second is about the karma. So I have this question because it's something that I used to listen a lot of times. People speaking about karma, like do something good, and later this thing will come back to you if you do something good, and if you do something bad, later the karma will pay you back, and it's going to be very horrible. So yes, so The thing is, karma, what does mean from the Buddhism perspective? And also, how can we see or how can we perceive karma in the daily life? And thank you very much in advance.
Okay, Patricia. It's a question that we could stay few days talking here, but I will make it as short and simple as possible. Okay. First of all, the word karma literally means action. Nothing more than action. Okay. Karma doesn't mean that sometimes it's used as destiny. It has nothing to do with destiny, and it's not a sort of punishment. Okay. Karma literally means action. So if I throw something up, sooner or later it comes down, unless it doesn't get stuck to something, right? So what happens is that any action that I do, I interact with others. Whenever there is interaction, there is transformation. And every action that I do and every interaction that I generate, it naturally shapes my own life. So for example, right now, the present moment that we are all experiencing together, how many things we did in the past that actually determined this moment? For example, if I didn't make the choice to go to live in India to study Buddhism, most probably we would not be here today together. Or if my own master didn't accept to go to Brazil, I would not be here today together with you. And we can stay days talking about things that happened in the life of each one of us, that if that things didn't happen, we would not be here today. So every action that we do, and by action I mean every interaction with other people, every choice we make, every word we say, and every thought we have, shape our life. And what we experience now is the result of all the choices and interactions that we have done in the past. That's karma. Okay? Karma means we are responsible of our own life. What we experience now is a result of the choices and interactions that we did in the past. And what will happen in the future is a result of what we do now, summed together with what we did before. So this is basically what karma means. Okay, and just one thing to add, what determines the action, it's mainly the motivation, the intention that is behind. As I said before, we could say days talking about the subject, but the main thing is the intention. So it's not something like a list of things that you can do and you cannot do. If you do this, happen that. If you do this, happen that. Okay? It's more like if you act out of love and kindness and respect and you care for others, you will receive something similar. You generate that type of energy in your life and it comes back similar to that. If you act out of anger and aggression and violence and so on, that's what you will get also. So just making it simple, it's mainly like that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
I also have a question, but first of all, I just want to thank you for this session. It was really interesting, and hearing about all these things was, yeah, I needed that somehow. My question is how, okay, it needs a little bit of contextualization. So even though I do a lot of spiritual practices and take care of my body and put myself into circumstances that allow me to progress, I find myself being drawn back at some point. I feel like I'm sabotaging myself, and I feel like I don't identify with the image of myself that progressed over the past situation, and I feel myself, yeah, drawn back. How can I stop doing that?
Okay, Nikolai. First of all, we need to accept and acknowledge that we are impermanent. We are always changing. But even though we are constantly changing, we get stuck with the identity of who we think we are. And we mix that up with who we thought we should be. Okay? So I do things thinking that I would have a certain result, and I do things thinking that I will become in a way. And then suddenly for some time it seems it's going in the right direction. And then suddenly I see that I am not experiencing what I thought I should experience, and I am not acting in the way I thought I should act, and so on. Okay? So it's normal for all of us to relate with ourselves and others through a so-called idealized image of us. But we need to remember that life is a constant process. And it's not always a gain process. It's a gain, lose, lose. There are moments in which we do things that go as we expect, moments that we do things and nothing goes as we expect. So I have had, for example, I saw in my life and in the life of others, moments that it doesn't matter what you do, everything goes wrong. So what these moments are telling us, the problem is not in what each thing you are doing. It's a generalized problem in the moment. So just relax, that moment will pass. It's a moment more to observe and to wait. There are moments in when we do things, we feel so much energy and we feel that everything is working out and is moving on and going, so take the advantage. But remember, it will not last forever. Because our life is cyclic. There are different moments. There, for example, there are moments in our life, I don't know how old you are, but for example, there is one moment very strong that for me was a very strong moment, and I saw in different people, more or less around between 28 and 30. There is a moment in which, according to astrology, it has a particular meaning, which is the time in which the planet Saturn, when we are born, it is in one position. It takes around 28 years to make one whole circle. So generally speaking, when we go to that moment, between 28 and 30, is a moment in which, independently of what we do and who we are, somehow we have this inner conflict of not feeling anymore who we are. We need to review our own identity. That's a natural process. But what happens is that when we go through it, we feel that we are the only one going through it somehow. But everyone that I know went through it. I have always had quite a very stable life myself, emotionally and everything and so on. I have gone through quite a tough moment in that time, in a way. You know? So it's very good that you put a lot of energy into your own spiritual practices, into taking care of your health and so on. Then we should have short-term and long-term objectives. What should speak loudly is the long-term objectives. And we should remember always that to go to the long-term objectives, there will be difficulties. There will be days that will be easy, days that will be difficult. There will be parts of the road that will be smooth, part of the road that will be bumpy. That's part of life. It's always been like this for every one of us. So when you see that you put energy, but it's not going so fast, or things are not going as in the beginning, there is two aspects. One, keep in mind the final direction and try to adapt in the present moment. Okay. The second thing is that both with the body and with the mind in a spiritual way, when we start, the beginning is easier, but it brings more gratitude, because making a metaphor is like if we have a very dirty table with many objects on top of it. When we need to make the initial cleaning, it's very easy. We just take a broom, we go at once, we take away a lot of dirt. But afterwards, when the table looks clean and we start to see all the stains that are inside of it, to take away the stains, it takes much, much, much more time and much, much, much more energy. We need to really go hard on it for a long time. So there is a moment when we start doing meditation or a spiritual practice or changing our behavior or anything, that when we start in the beginning, like the first part of it, we feel a lot of results with not so much time and energy. Then there is a point in which it looks like that we are stuck. It looks like that it brings no more benefit. It means that we need to go deeper and deeper. And the more we go deeper, the more we go onwards on the path, the stronger somehow needs to be our effort, because it's like cleaning the stain, not only taking away the superficial dirt. Okay? So my advice, there are two aspects. One, adapt to changes, because changes are natural in life, by keeping your direction. Long term speaks louder than middle term speaks louder than short term. Needs and objectives. Okay? And stick to what you feel that is beneficial for you. Even if at some point it's not so spontaneous, not so easy, stick to it. And be open to learn new things and to add new things to your life also. Okay? And remember that life, it's not always nice and smooth. There are many bumpy parts on the road. And there are moments in which we need to go up and it's not so easy. Then moments in which we go down and it goes more smoothly. And we are not the one to control the road. We can only control the car. We don't know which part of the road we are in. We just need to adapt how to drive on the part of the road in which we are. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome.
Hello, I want to ask something. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. This is today your presentation about meditation, but I'm not a meditation person. Sorry. Actually, I wonder what happens after that. According to your belief, I remember correctly, people will come again after die, right?
Okay.
Yes.
So, yes.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. Actually, I wonder what will people come to the world as after die.
Okay.
For example, do you have an idea? Can you believe? Can you know?
Mm-hmm.
What do you believe about this title? I wonder. Thank you.
Okay. So, Burcu?
Burcu.
Burcu.
Thank you.
So, it is, again, as the previous question, is something we could stay days talking about, but I will try to make it short and simple. Okay. First thing, every spiritual tradition and every religion that I have seen and I have known up to today believe in a continuity after death. We believe that death is a passage. It's not a final end. Okay. And so first thing that I believe very much is that when we die, the body doesn't hold life anymore, as we know, and there is continuity. Okay. So there is a part of us that continue. So the body doesn't continue anymore. I believe that our intellectual mind with our knowledge and so on doesn't continue anymore. What continues is what in Buddhism we call our very subtle mind or mental continuum. In other traditions, we may call the soul. But there is a part of us which is very spontaneous, which is very profound, that is always with us, that continues. Okay. What I believe is that when we die, at one moment, we enter into what is called a similar state like a dream, which we call intermediate state, which can last it says, it's according to Buddhist tradition, up to 7 weeks. And in between this, there is a moment in which we take rebirth into a new body. Okay, the birth starts in the moment of conception. And then our mind can enter into a new body in the moment of conception. And we can be reborn as a human being, but we can also be reborn in other forms of life, such as animals, for example. So this also brings the belief in Buddhism that animals and human beings, the main difference is the body, but deep inside we are made of the same nature. And that we can be reborn as an animal can be reborn as a human being. And the main thing is that from life to life, we just continue to interact and to have other experiences. So that's why it's so important what we become in our life more than what we do, because what we become continues. Okay, so if we want to know what continues after death, just try to think what was there when you were a kid and is still there today, deep inside. Okay, what was there 1 year ago and is still there now, not the intellectual knowledge and not the body, because when I was a kid, my body was different, your body was different, we were different. Intellectually, we learn new things and so on. But there are some very basic parts of our emotions, of our experiences that continue day after day, month after month, year after year. That's what continues life after life. Okay. But the final part of this answer, Burcho, is that one time someone asked Buddha about the previous life and future lives. And Buddha answered in Tibetan, it says, which means, if you want to know what you were in the past, what you did in the past, just look at your present conditions. If you want to know what will happen in the future, just look at your present mind. What is important is what you do now, not so much what happened before or what will happen in the future. No? So if we take good care of the present moment, the future will come. One time a journalist asked me, do you believe in reincarnation? I said, yes. And if it doesn't exist? I said, much better. Sincerely speaking, I believe in reincarnation, but if we die, everything just finished, in a way, I think is better, according when I look to this whole world, so much suffering around. So, but I believe that by living my life, believing in continuity after death, I take care of what continues. And this is what is also important during this life, not only after death. So we believe in reincarnation, but what we really take care is what we are doing now. Okay.
Thank you so much. So impressive, really. Thank you.
Welcome, Butch.
Mm.
Any other questions still?
Jacopo is not here right now, but I think it's something with his connection, but he told me he will come back very soon.
Okay.
And he's already telling me that he has some problem with his connection, so
okay.
I'm going to try to contact him.
All right.
If anyone has any other question.
I will take the opportunity just to go through a conclusion. Okay. So, we are from different countries. We live different lives. We follow different religions. We have different experiences, different expectations, and so on. But finally, we are much, much more similar than what we may even think. Okay. And what we want by the end of the day is the same thing. So we need to remind ourselves of that and truly look again and again and question ourselves, what do I want to become? okay? And really try to act in our daily life in accordance with what we want to become, what we want to be. Because even though we are young, I am 39, life goes by very fast. And it goes like in an instant. When we see it, it's gone. Okay. So it doesn't matter how long we live. I wish everyone to have a very long and healthy life. Like my grandparents. My grandfather now is 98 and healthy and mentally and physically healthy. So I wish everyone to have a long and healthy life. But the most important thing is not how much we live, but how we live. There's a moment in life when we are very young in which we have this feeling that life is still to come. Then there is a moment when we get old that we have the feeling that life is already gone. When life, it's now, it's when I breathe, it's when I talk, it's when I feel, it's what I do. Okay? So please, everyone, you just put your energy where you feel that you can do something positive. Try to give the best that you can do in everything that you do, and everything is fine. We cannot change the world. We can change the way how we relate with the world, and we can change ourselves. And by that, we change the world, because the world is made of people, nothing more. And if we really go through all the issues that this world is going through, we could start talking about environmental issues, social issues, political issues, poverty, war, conflicts. There are so many things around. All these issues, poverty, environmental crisis, social instability, social difference, wars, and all. Where is all this starting? With individuals. Is it starting in our mind? Is it starting in people's mind? Is it starting with selfishness, with anger, with ignorance, and so on? But we are part of society. So when we change ourselves, we change society in one level. So we don't need to live with the expectation that we need to change the world. We need to change ourselves and how we live the world, and by that we change the world. On a tiny part, but it means a lot altogether. Okay? So, and one of the things that my master said to me a few times, he passed away last year, and until the last moment, he reminded us when we asked him about something, and he wanted to do something which it was quite hard. He was not feeling so well healthy, and he wanted to get out of his room and go to have dinner, lunch or dinner, I don't remember, I think it was lunch on the table with other people, and he needed to do 2 floors of stairs, and it was really difficult. So at one point, someone asked him, said, we call him Rinpoche. We say, Rinpoche, but why you want to go down and up with so much difficulty? And he just answered, because need enjoy. And this means that he showed me one thing, which is until the last moment, it doesn't matter, even in difficult moments, we need to live life with joy. Connect with the good things, rejoice about the good things, give love to others. It doesn't matter if others love you or not, we give love to others. And we do the best that we can for this world. Okay? So don't be too hard on yourself. We embrace ourselves and we direct ourselves to what we do better. When we recognize there is something that is not so good in us, in our habits, we don't blame ourselves. We don't get guilty blaming ourselves. We embrace ourselves and we direct ourselves to what we want to be and to become. When we see a mistake, we don't blame ourselves. We embrace ourselves and we direct ourselves to what we want to be. So remember, as we said in the beginning, the force that should direct us in our life is not the past, but the future. And we look forward, okay? And we live every day in the best of our abilities, and then everything will go fine. It will not be perfect. Life is hard. There will be difficult moments, but everything will be fine. Okay? And there is one phrase that accompanies me, two phrases I like to share with you, just to conclude. One is that when I was 13 years old, I went back to Brazil after going to live in India. And my Jewish grandmother took me to talk with a rabbi. And when I arrived to talk with the rabbi, it also was because of the age of doing bar mitzvah and all these things according to Jewish tradition, but I was living in a Buddhist monastery, so it was not fitting so much. And at that moment, she took me to talk with the rabbi. I entered the house where the rabbi was. We sat down, and then the rabbi looked at me, and he said to me, if I am I, because you are you. And if you are you, because I am not I, and you are not you. But if I am I, because I am I, and if you are you, because you are you, then we can talk. I'll repeat once again. If I am I, because you are you, which means if I act in a certain way because I am with you, I am not myself, truly. So if I am I, because you are you, I am not I. And if you are you because I am I, you are also not you. But if I am I because I am I, and if you are you because you are you, then we can talk because we are sincere. So I learned that everywhere we go, all the relations we do, on a short term, it can work not to be ourselves. On a middle, long term, it doesn't work. So we don't need to be afraid of being ourselves. And we don't need to be afraid of putting effort to become a better version of ourselves. Okay? So we accept who we are and we direct ourselves to be someone better. The second phrase is something that accompanied me a lot because one of my main issues for many years has been my own, say in English, laziness. So there is one phrase in Tibetan which goes by Chego chego samne nishu song, majung majung samne nishu song, aka aka samne nishu song, tetarangane long or drukchulong mise tongba sebe namdari. Which means thinking to do it, 20 years passed by. Oh, I couldn't do it. Oh, I couldn't do it. 20 years passed by. Oh, why I didn't do it. Oh, why I didn't do it. 20 years passed by. In such way, 60 years passed by. That's the biography of an empty life. If there is something that we truly believe that we need to do regarding ourselves or others, we don't need to conclude it right away, but we need to start. We need to put our energy into it. Don't wait for conditions. Just go for it. Just do it. When we think that is something that is truly important. If we see behaviors and habits that we want to change, don't wait something to happen to change our habits. Just start doing it, and then it will move, and things will flow. Okay? I'm very grateful to all of you. Okay.
Lama, sorry, may I ask one very last question, if it's possible?
Sure.
Thank you. Sorry, the last 5 minutes I had a little bit connection problem. Now my camera is not working, but
no problem,
right here behind. Sorry, I don't want to take too much of your time, but really I would like to ask one thing. It's about compassion, because like I had, let's say, a little crisis on compassion. Let's say in the last maybe 2 months, it really kept my mind a bit busy. And so I will explain, and also I will give my definition of compassion, because maybe also the problem is at the root. Maybe the definition is wrong, let's say. So what I define, let's say, as compassion is, I will say, the concern for the suffering of the other person. And as we say, like the desire that this suffering can end, so that the other person will not suffer. Now my crisis was made by realizing that often myself and many people I've seen around, they had, of course, some difficult moments that were very high in terms of sufferance, but also very important to grow, let's say. So I was like thinking, in somehow when I feel compassion, of course, I want the sufferance of the other person to stop, but at the same time, maybe at least in some cases, not always, but at least in some cases, I'm also wishing for the person not to have an opportunity also to grow, because we know difficult moments can be also very important to grow. And I have an image to conclude. Like once I remember, I have a little niece, and sometimes, of course, she's a baby girl, and sometimes she cries, and I feel a bit sorry, let's say, when she cries. She cries like, because she can cry for half an hour sometimes, And a friend of mine was telling me, yes, of course you feel sorry, let's say, to see your baby girl, your niece to cry, but do you know how important is it to cry at that age for developing the breathing system, the lungs? So I had this imagine somehow, sometimes the sufferance is also so important. Now this is just a metaphor, let's say. So how to, I don't know, how to match these two sides. Thank you.
Okay, Jacopo. Again, as some of the previous questions, we could stay days here talking about it. But there are some very short points that can help. First of all, your definition of compassion matches with my definition of compassion, which is compassion is the urge, the wish for the other to be free from his or her suffering. Okay, this is one thing. What makes the main point here is understanding what is suffering. Okay, so in Buddhism, we have 3 levels of suffering. We have the first level, which we call suffering of suffering, which basically is the manifestation of suffering in one's own life, which is when someone is not feeling well, physical or mental suffering. The other level of suffering is called suffering of change, which is when people think they are well, but actually they're just in a moment that is going to generate even more suffering after. Okay? It's like if you are going up thinking how nice I'm going up, but then after you fall down from a higher place somehow. Okay? Not going into details now. And the third type of suffering, which is the deepest one of understanding, is to see that ourselves and others, we could say polluted, but our mind and our life is driven by inner conflicts and by negative emotions that inevitably generates suffering. So when I look at someone and I wish that person not to suffer, the deeper level of suffering, which is being oneself, one's own mind, trapped in anger, in fear, in miserliness, and so on, is the most important level. So when I see someone suffering, the main issue is not, I wish you not to feel this sensation of suffering. Yes, I don't want you to feel suffering, but most of all, more important than that, I wish you to get out of a middle long-term suffering, not only the short term. If there is a situation on the short term that is of suffering, but that brings middle or long-term benefit, welcome. And when I see someone, I wish you to be free from your own ignorance. I wish you to be free from your own miserliness, from your own arrogance, from your own hatred, which is the roots of suffering. So if there is a difficult situation, I wish you not to live in a perfect world. I wish you to go through difficult situations, and I wish you to have the strength to grow with them and not to be trapped into the difficult situation. So for example, if you have a friend and you see that this person is going through a difficult moment, but as you said before, sometimes, very often, difficult moments can help us to grow. So in this moment, you just need to direct your compassion, not into, I wish you to stop suffering right away, but I wish you to have the wisdom and the clarity and the strength to find the best solution and to grow with the situation that you are going through. Okay, and in this way, you direct compassion. Okay, because you see there is a deeper level, not just a momentary experience. And the other thing is that we always look to others through the filter of our own perception. And something that for us is terrible, for others is not terrible. For example, I have big problems if I walk barefoot on a cold floor. For my health, it's really not good. And whenever I see someone walking barefoot, I'm completely, don't do that, that's bad for you, you know? Basically because it's bad for me. So sometimes we need to understand also that other people are different and they have different needs and they are in different situations and we need to adapt to their own needs. But most of all, it's like when I see big conflicts, it's not only the fact of the conflict overcoming in the present moment, but may the causes of that conflict be overcome. May the anger, may the arrogance, may the selfishness be overcome, not only the conflict in itself. So in this way, when you see situations like this, just need to direct the compassion into something more long-term and deeper, but keep this strong wish that the other be free from suffering.
Thank you very much. It's very clear. Also, I want to thank, because we have some of our students that are following through YouTube. So they send me many messages of gratitude for you. Thank you.
So I would like, Jacopo, really to say thank you to every one of you. And it has been a pleasure being together. Time has passed very fast. Okay. And I have one request only to all of you. And my request is, if there is anything that we said today that you may feel it's of benefit, please just try to put it into practice. Just bring it to your life. Don't need to choose many things, just choose one. And try to bring it to your life. Try to apply it to your life. Don't let it just go away. Okay? So that's all. Thank you very, very much for everyone. And I'm here in Italy. If any one of you would ever come by, you are all very welcome to come also here to our place. We are very happy to receive everyone. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Ciao, ciao.